The summons, the quantum gate hummed with barely contained energy as Dr. Sarah Chen stepped through its shimmering portal. The transition from Earth's diplomatic facility to the Nexus station always left her slightly dizzy, but today the sensation was different. There was something electric in the air, a tension that made her skin crawl. Captain Marcus Webb materialized beside her, his military bearing intact despite the disorienting jump. His hand instinctively moved to where his sidearm would normally rest, finding only empty space. Weapons were forbidden on Nexus Station, but old habits died hard. "Dr. Chen," he said quietly, "something's wrong. Look around." Sarah had already noticed the vast receiving hall of Nexus Station, normally bustling with delegates from hundreds of worlds, was nearly empty. The few beings present moved with hurried purpose, avoiding eye contact. The massive holographic displays that usually showed peaceful trade routes and diplomatic announcements now flickered with urgent red warnings in dozens of languages. "Emergency Tribunal Session," Sarah read from the nearest display. "All traffic suspended. Priority Alpha protocols in effect." A mechanical voice echoed through the hall, cold and impersonal. "Dr. Sarah Chen, representative of the Terran Coalition. Report immediately to Tribunal Chamber 7. Escort required." Two figures approached from the shadows. One was tall and angular, with silver skin that seemed to reflect light in impossible ways. The other was shorter, covered in chitinous armor that clicked softly with each step. Both wore the black and gold uniforms of Nexus Security. Dr. Chen, the silver being, spoke, its voice like wind chimes in a storm. "I am Enforcer. You will come with us." Sarah noticed they hadn't extended the same courtesy to Captain Webb. "My advisor comes with me." "Negative. Only the primary delegate is summoned." Webb stepped forward, his jaw tight. "I don't think so. Where she goes, I go." Enforcer Zilthara's head tilted, studying Webb with eyes that held no warmth. "Captain Webb, you may observe from the public gallery. You will not interfere." Sarah placed a hand on Webb's arm. "It's all right, Marcus. Stay close, but let me handle this." The walk through Nexus Station's corridors was unlike any Sarah had experienced in her 3 years as Earth's chief diplomatic representative. The usual vibrant atmosphere was replaced by an oppressive silence. Shops were closed, their alien proprietors nowhere to be seen. Even the maintenance drones seemed to move with unusual urgency. "What's this about?" Sarah asked her escorts. The chitinous Enforcer spoke for the first time, its voice a series of clicks and whistles translated by the universal communicator. "You will learn soon enough, human." The contempt in that single word was unmistakable. Sarah had heard it before from various species, but never from official Nexus personnel. Something had changed, and not for the better. Tribunal Chamber 7 was smaller than the grand assembly halls Sarah was used to. It felt intimate, almost claustrophobic. The chamber was arranged in a circle, with the defendant's platform at the center. Above, a dome of transparent aluminum provided a view of the swirling galactic core. As Sarah entered, she counted the beings already present. 12 delegates from the major galactic powers, their faces ranging from curious to openly hostile. At the highest point sat High Chancellor Vexter, his reptilian features carved from what looked like living stone. His yellow eyes tracked Sarah's movement with predatory focus. "Dr. Chen," Vexter's voice rumbled through the chamber. "You stand before this emergency tribunal to answer for the actions of your species." Sarah remained calm, though her heart rate increased. I'm here to represent Earth's interests, as always. What actions are you referring to? Do not play ignorant with us, human. This came from Ambassador Krillthok, an insectoid being whose mandibles clicked rapidly as he spoke. Your colony ship, the New Dawn, has violated the neutral zone accords. Sarah's blood ran cold. The New Dawn had departed Earth 6 months ago, carrying 10,000 colonists to establish humanity's first settlement beyond the Sol system. They had been granted safe passage through the neutral zone, a buffer region between major galactic powers. The New Dawn was operating under proper authorization, Sarah said carefully. Their flight path was approved by this very tribunal. Was approved, Vexstar emphasized. Past tense. The situation has changed. A holographic display materialized above the chamber, showing the New Dawn's massive hull drifting in space. But something was wrong. The ship was dark, its hull scorched and twisted. Debris fields surrounded it like a metallic shroud. Sarah's composure nearly cracked. What happened to them? They were destroyed, said a new voice. Minister Zolandra materialized from what appeared to be empty air, her energy-based form flickering between states of matter. 3 days ago, the New Dawn was caught attempting to establish an illegal mining operation on Kepler-4 for 2b. That's impossible, Sarah said firmly. Kepler-4 for 2b is a dead world. There's nothing there worth mining. Nothing human instruments could detect. Krillthok clicked. But the planet contains deposits of quantum crystals. Highly valuable, highly regulated. The New Dawn was attempting to steal them. Sarah shook her head. You're wrong. Captain Morrison would never. Captain Morrison is dead, Vexstar interrupted. Along with all 10,000 colonists. They were warned to leave the system. They refused. The enforcement fleet had no choice but to eliminate the threat. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of the station's systems. Sarah stared at the image of the destroyed ship, her mind racing. Something didn't add up. The New Dawn's mission parameters were clear. Establish an agricultural colony on Kepler-4 for to see. The system's only habitable world. They had no mining equipment, no geological survey teams. I want to see the evidence, Sarah said. Evidence. Vexed laugh was like grinding stone. You humans always demand evidence when confronted with your crimes. Because evidence matters, Sarah replied. Show me the communications. Show me the warnings you claim to have sent. Show me proof that the New Dawn was mining anything. The delegates exchanged glances. Something passed between them, a silent communication that set Sarah's nerves on edge. The evidence is classified, Zolandra said finally. Security concerns. Convenient, Sarah muttered. What did you say? Vexstar's voice carried a dangerous edge. Sarah looked up at him, meeting his predatory gaze without flinching. I said convenient. It's convenient that the evidence is classified. It's convenient that 10,000 humans are dead. It's convenient that this tribunal was called so quickly, before Earth could mount any kind of investigation. You dare suggest I am not suggesting anything, Sarah interrupted. I'm stating facts. The New Dawn was a civilian vessel on a peaceful mission. They were families, farmers, teachers. They were children. For a moment, something flickered across Vexstar's face. Was it guilt? Uncertainty? It was gone too quickly to tell. The matter is concluded, he said. Earth will pay reparations for the violation of the neutral zone accords. The quantum crystals will be returned to their rightful owners. This tribunal is wait. Sarah's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. Who are the rightful owners? The question hung in the air. The delegates shifted uncomfortably. The Galactic Consortium manages all neutral zone resources, Krilthok said finally. The Consortium. Sarah's mind was working faster now. The same consortium that has been lobbying for restrictions on human expansion for the past 2 years. The same consortium that filed formal complaints about our aggressive colonization policies. Your point, Dr. Chen. Vexter's voice was carefully neutral. My point, Sarah said, stepping forward, is that this feels less like justice and more like an excuse. The chamber erupted in angry clicks, hisses, and roars. Several delegates rose from their seats, their translators working overtime to convert their outrage into standard galactic. Silence, Vextar S. Roar dominated the chamber. Dr. Chen, you will retract that statement immediately. I will not. Sarah said calmly, because I think you're lying. The silence that followed was deafening. In the gallery above, Captain Webb leaned forward, his hand instinctively moving to his empty holster. You killed 10,000 innocent people, Sarah continued, her voice steady despite the fury building in her chest. You destroyed a civilian vessel, and now you're trying to blame the victims. Proof, Vextar snarled. You offer no proof of these accusations. Then let me examine the evidence, Sarah challenged. Let me see the New Dawn's flight recorder. Let me review the communications logs. Let me speak to the enforcement fleet commanders who gave the order to fire. The delegates exchanged more glances. The silence stretched on. The evidence is classified, Zolandra repeated. Of course it is, Sarah said. She turned slowly, looking at each delegate in turn. Because the evidence would show that the New Dawn never deviated from its approved flight path. It would show that they never attempted to mine anything. It would show that they were murdered in cold blood. You have no proof, Vextar said, but his voice lacked conviction. Sarah smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Actually, I do. She reached into her diplomatic pouch and withdrew a small device. It was sleek, black, and completely innocuous. But when she activated it, the chamber's main display flickered and changed. Asterisk. The display now showed a different view of the New Dawn. This one was from 3 days ago, just before the ship's destruction. The time stamp was clear, as was the ship's location, exactly where it was supposed to be, in orbit around Kepler-4 for to see. The New Dawn never went to Kepler-4 for to be, Sarah continued. They were establishing their colony exactly as planned. They were attacked without warning, without provocation. The chamber was silent except for the hum of electronics. On the display, the New Dawn's final moments played out in horrifying detail. Weapons, fire from multiple ships, the civilian vessels' desperate attempts to escape, the final explosion. That ended 10,000 lives. You murdered them, Sarah said, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. You murdered them because you were afraid. Afraid. Vexter's voice was barely a whisper. Afraid of what humanity represents, Sarah continued. Afraid of our expansion, our technology, our refusal to accept the status quo. You couldn't compete with us, so you decided to eliminate us. She turned to face the full tribunal, her voice rising with each word. But you made one mistake. You thought killing 10,000 humans would make the rest of us back down. You thought we would accept your lies, pay your reparations, and retreat to our little corner of the galaxy. The chamber was absolutely silent now. Even the station's systems seemed to hold their breath. You were wrong, Sarah said, her voice now carrying the weight of an entire species. You attacked our home. You killed our children. And now you're going *. The revelation, the silence that followed Sarah's words, was unlike anything Nexus Station had ever witnessed. In the public gallery, Captain Webb found himself holding his breath, watching as his diplomatic superior faced down the most powerful beings in the galaxy with nothing but truth and righteous fury. High Chancellor Vextar's reptilian features had gone completely still, but his yellow eyes blazed with something between rage and fear. Around the chamber, the other delegates shifted uncomfortably, their various forms of communication creating a susurrus of whispers, clicks, and electronic hums. Dr. Chen Vextar finally spoke, his voice carefully controlled. You make serious accusations without proof, Sarah interrupted, her voice cutting through his words like steel. I just showed you proof. The quantum beacon data is irrefutable. Every bit of telemetry, every communication, every heartbeat of every person aboard the New Dawn is recorded and transmitted to our archives. She gestured to the display, which continued to show the ship's final moments. Your enforcement fleet opened fire on a civilian vessel that was exactly where it was supposed to be, doing exactly what it was authorized to do. 10,000 innocent people died because you were afraid of human expansion. Ambassador Krilthok's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation in his species. The quantum crystals were detected on Kepler-4 for 2b, Sarah finished. A planet the New Dawn never visited, a planet that wasn't even on their mission profile. She smiled coldly. Unless you're suggesting our farmers and teachers developed quantum mining technology in their spare time. Enough. Vextar's roar echoed through the chamber. You will not turn this tribunal into a platform for your propaganda. Propaganda. Sarah's voice remained steady, but those who knew her could hear the ice beneath. Is that what you call the truth now? She activated another function on her device, and the display changed again. This time, it showed a complex web of communications, financial transactions, and resource allocations stretching across multiple star systems. This is what our intelligence services have been tracking for the past 18 months, Sarah continued. A coordinated effort by 12 different galactic powers to limit human expansion, meeting schedules, resource-sharing agreements, even practice scenarios for containing the human threat. The chamber erupted in angry protests from several delegates. But Sarah pressed on. The Reptilian Dominion provided the military force. The Insectoid Collective provided the intelligence. The Void Collective provided the quantum manipulation technology to mask the attack signatures. Even the supposedly neutral Nexus Authority was involved, scheduling this tribunal before Earth could mount a proper investigation. Minister Zolandra's energy form flickered more rapidly. These are baseless accusations, are they, Sarah? Turned to face her directly. Then explain why your people were conducting routine maintenance on our quantum communication relays in the Sol system just hours before the attack. Maintenance that conveniently delayed our ability to receive. The New Dawn's distress signals. The energy being's form wavered, becoming more translucent. Or perhaps, Sarah continued, turning to another delegate. Ambassador Threnody of the Crystal. Syndicate would like to explain why her people began mobilizing their mining fleets toward Kepler-4, for to be before the New Dawn was even destroyed. A crystalline being in the upper tier made a sound like breaking glass. We were responding to reports of illegal mining activity. Reports from whom? Sarah demanded. The New Dawn hadn't even been accused of anything yet. Unless, of course, you knew in advance what was going to happen. Captain Webb watched from the gallery as the pieces fell into place. The aliens had planned this from the beginning. The attack, the accusations, even this tribunal were all part of a coordinated effort to cripple human expansion before it could truly begin. High Chancellor Vextar rose from his seat, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. Even if your wild theories were true, what do you intend to do about it? Humanity has perhaps 24 ships capable of interstellar travel. We command thousands. Your entire species numbers less than 12 billion. The Dominion alone has over 1 trillion citizens. Sarah looked up at him without fear. Numbers don't always tell the whole story, do they not? Vextar's laugh was like grinding stone. What could your primitive species possibly do to threaten us? For the first time since entering the chamber, Sarah's composure cracked slightly, not with fear or anger, but with something far more dangerous, amusement. You really don't understand us at all, do you? She said softly. She activated her device. One final time. The chamber's displays flickered and changed, showing a view of space near the Nexus station. But instead of the usual traffic patterns and civilian vessels, the screens showed something that made every delegate in the chamber freeze. Ships, hundreds of them, arranged in perfect formation just outside the station's defensive perimeter. They were sleek, angular, and completely unfamiliar. The hull configurations didn't match any known human vessel design. Allow me to introduce the Sol Defense Fleet, Sarah said calmly. Launched 6 months ago, just after the New Dawn departed. Funny thing about humans, we don't just prepare for the best-case scenario. Vextar's eyes widened. Those ships, ... they're not in our databases. Of course not, Sarah replied. We built them in the Oort cloud, using technology we've been developing since first contact. Did you really think we were showing you everything we were capable of? The chamber was in chaos now. Delegates were shouting in 12 languages, their translators struggling to keep up. Emergency alarms began to sound throughout the station. Each of those ships, Sarah continued, raising her voice above the noise, carries enough firepower to level a small moon. They're powered by controlled antimatter reactions and armed with weapons that can tear holes in space-time itself. We call them our diplomatic insurance policy. Captain Webb couldn't help but smile. He'd helped design those ships, worked with the engineers and physicists who had pushed human technology far beyond what anyone thought possible. The aliens had made a critical error. They'd assumed human capabilities based on what they were allowed to see. This is impossible, Krilfak chittered. Our intelligence indicated, your intelligence indicated what we wanted it to indicate, Sarah interrupted. Did you think we weren't aware of your spies? Every piece of technology you've seen, every capability assessment you've made, was carefully curated to make you underestimate us. She walked to the center of the chamber, her voice carrying clearly to every delegate. You wanted to know what we intend to do about the murder of 10,000 innocent people. Here's your answer, nothing. The chamber fell silent again, confusion, replacing fear on many faces. Nothing. Vextar's voice was uncertain. Nothing at all, Sarah confirmed, because we don't need to do anything. You've already done it to yourselves. She gestured to the displays showing the human fleet. Every government in this chamber authorized an act of war against humanity. You conspired to murder our civilians, destroy our property, and then lie about it in an official tribunal. You violated every treaty, every accord, every principle of galactic law. The implications were beginning to sink in. If the evidence Sarah had presented was accurate and the quantum beacon data was virtually impossible to fake, then every delegate in the chamber was complicit in war crimes. The Galactic Commerce Authority will freeze all your assets, Sarah continued. The independent trade unions will embargo your worlds. The Neutral Systems Alliance will refuse passage to your ships. You won't need to worry about human expansion, because you'll be too busy dealing with complete economic collapse. You cannot prove conspiracy, Solandra protested, but her energy form was flickering wildly now. Can't I? Sarah smiled. Every communication, every meeting, every transaction is recorded in our quantum archives. In approximately minutes, copies of this evidence will be transmitted to every major news network, every independent government, and every trade organization in the galaxy. She paused, letting that sink in. But I'm prepared to offer you an alternative. The chamber was so quiet that the station's life support systems sounded like thunder. A full confession, Sarah said. Public acknowledgement of your crimes, reparations for the families of the New Dawn's victims, and a formal guarantee that human expansion will proceed without interference. And if we refuse? Vextar asked. Sarah's smile was cold as vacuum. Then, in 37 minutes, the galaxy learns that its most powerful civilizations are nothing more than murderers and liars. Your own citizens will demand justice. Your trade partners will abandon you. Your allies will distance themselves from the scandal. She looked around the chamber, meeting each delegate's gaze in turn. You have 36 minutes to decide. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then, slowly, High Chancellor Vextar sank back into his seat. The fight had gone out of him, replaced by the weight of inevitable consequence. You would destroy the galactic order, he said quietly. No, Sarah replied. You already did that when you decided to murder our people. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it. Ambassador Krillthok was the first to crack. The Insectoid Collective. We withdraw from the conspiracy. We will provide full cooperation with any investigation. Coward, Vextar hissed, but others were already following suit. One by one, the delegates began to speak. Admissions of guilt, offers of cooperation, desperate attempts to minimize their involvement. The greatest powers in the galaxy reduced. Two squabbling children caught in a lie. Sarah watched it all with calm satisfaction. This wasn't about revenge, was about justice. And more importantly, it was about ensuring that no one would ever again mistake human restraint for weakness. When the last delegate had spoken, when the confessions were recorded and the reparations agreed upon, Sarah finally allowed herself to relax slightly. There's one more thing, she said, as the tribunal prepared to adjourn. Vextar looked at her with exhausted eyes. What now? The Sol Defense Fleet will be taking up permanent positions throughout human space, Sarah announced. Not as an aggressive force, but as a reminder that humanity is not as helpless as you believed. A reminder that we remember our friends and our enemies equally well. She gathered her devices and prepared to leave. Dr. Chen Vextar called after her. What you've accomplished here today, ... It changes everything. The balance of power, the political structure of the galaxy itself. Sarah paused at the chamber's exit. Good, she said simply. It was time for a change. As she walked away, Captain Webb fell into step beside her. The corridors of Nexus Station were coming alive again, filled with beings who had just learned that the galaxy was a very different place than it had been an hour ago. Doctor, Webb said quietly, was any of that true? The Sol Defense Fleet, the hidden technology. Sarah glanced at him with a slight smile. Marcus, the first rule of diplomacy is, Never show all your cards at once. So the fleet is exactly where I said it was, armed exactly as I described. Her smile widened. We've been busy these past few months, very busy indeed. Behind them, the greatest powers in the galaxy were learning a lesson that humanity had known for millennia. It's not the size of civilization in the fight that matters, but the size of the fight in the civilization, and humanity, as they had just discovered, had quite a lot of fight indeed. Asterisk.